My mom stole my college fund to spoil her stepdaughter. Now she's trying to sue me for more. She emptied my savings, threw me away, and replaced me with her new family. Years later, she came crawling back, demanding I pay for her stepdaughter's luxury dorm. Now, she's blocked, broke, and I'm finally free. The sharp buzz of my phone jolted me awake. Groggy, I squinted at the screen, trying to make sense of the name flashing across it. Mom. My stomach tightened. I hadn't heard from her in months, maybe even a year. The last time we spoke, she barely acknowledged my existence. So why now? For a moment I considered letting it go to voicemail. Nothing good ever came from her calls. But curiosity got the best of me. With a sigh I swiped to answer. Hello. No greetings. No hey, how have you been? Not even a second of small talk. She went straight for the kill. I need $2,000. Lily's dorm fees are due. I sat up, suddenly wide awake. Lily. Her husband's stepdaughter. Not my sister. Not my responsibility. First I thought I misheard her. Maybe my half-asleep brain was playing tricks on me. Wait. What? I said, rubbing my face. Her private dorm room. The payment is due. She can't live with a roommate. It would be too difficult for her. You can send the money to my account, and I'll take care of it. Just like that. No hesitation. No shame. Just a demand. As if I were some human ATM she'd finally decided to withdraw from. I sat there stunned. After everything she put me through, she had the audacity to call me now, only because she wanted money? The anger hit me in waves. She hadn't checked in when I was struggling. She never called to see how I was holding up. But now suddenly I existed again because she needed cash. I gripped my phone, my jaw tightening. She didn't even ask how I was doing. She just wanted money. I wasn't always broke. Back in high school I had a plan. My grandparents had set aside $22,000 for my college fund. A gift. A chance at a future I actually wanted. On top of that, I worked part-time, grinding through weekends and late nights to save another $2,000. It wasn't a fortune, but it was mine. I was proud of it. That money was supposed to be my safety net, my way out. Then one afternoon everything changed. I logged into my bank account, expecting to check my balance like I had done 100 times before. But instead of seeing my savings, I saw zero. My heart dropped. I refreshed the page, checked the transaction history, hoping it was some kind of mistake, some banking error. But no, it was real. Every last cent was gone. I felt sick. There was only one person who could have done this. My mom. She was still listed as a co-owner on the account. I had never gotten around to switching it over. I confronted her that night, my voice shaking as I held my phone out. Where's my money? I expected an excuse, maybe even some fake shock, but she didn't even flinch. She just stared at me and shrugged. I took it, she said, like it was no big deal. My chest tightened. You what? Her expression didn't change. I took it. You deserved it after the way you've treated this family. The room spun. I what? My brain couldn't even process what she was saying. Punishment, she added, as if that explained everything. You never respected Mark. You never made an effort with his kids. So why should you get rewarded while they struggle? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. That money wasn't hers. It wasn't Mark's. It wasn't Noah's or Lily's. It was mine. Years of savings. Gone. My future, just a weapon she decided to use against me. The worst part? She wasn't even sorry. She wasn't ashamed. She acted like it was normal, like she had every right to take it. Something inside me snapped. I had put up with a lot from her. Being ignored, being treated like an outsider in my own home, but this was different. This was theft. This was betrayal. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I just stood there, heart pounding, realizing in that moment there was nothing left for me in this house. So I did the only thing that made sense. That night I packed my bags and left. I didn't have a plan. I just had a suitcase and a sinking feeling in my chest as I knocked on my grandparents' door that night. They didn't hesitate. They didn't ask questions or make me explain myself. My grandmother just pulled me inside, hugged me and said, "You'll be okay." And for the first time in years, I actually believed it. Living with them was different. Their house was quiet, steady. No walking on eggshells, no pretending to be part of a family that didn't want me. But it was also lonely in a way I hadn't expected. I spent the first few weeks and a days replaying everything in my head, trying to make sense of how my mother could do what she did and not even care. I kept waiting for her to call, to check on me, to act like a mother. She never did. Not once. No apologies. No messages. Not even an empty, meaningless excuse. I was gone and she didn't even notice. I threw myself into work and school, trying to build a future with what little I had left. My grandparents helped where they could, but I knew I couldn't rely on them forever. So I pushed through late nights, side jobs, barely scraping by. I learned how to live off cheap instant noodles, how to stretch a tank of gas for weeks, how to survive when every dollar counted. Meanwhile, back at her house, life went on without me. Mark's kids, Noah and Lily, became her kids. She went to their school events, celebrated their birthdays, posted pictures of them like they were the only children she ever had. I wasn't angry. I was just numb. Because if she could replace me that easily, maybe I was never really there to begin with. The years blurred together. I graduated high school, then college. I built something for myself, without her, without them. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I could breathe. My life was mine, and I was finally starting to feel at peace. Then, out of nowhere, my phone buzzed. Mom. I just stared at the screen, my mind racing. After all these years, now she remembered I existed? I didn't answer right away. I just sat there staring at her name on my screen, debating whether I even wanted to hear whatever nonsense she had to say. But curiosity got the best of me. Maybe, just maybe, after all these years, she had finally realized what she had done. Maybe this was her way of making things right. I swiped to accept the call. Big mistake. I need $2,000. No hello. No, how have you been? Just straight to business, like I was some ATM she forgot she had access to. I almost laughed at the audacity. She wasn't even calling for me. She was calling for Lily. Her precious stepdaughter apparently couldn't bear the thought of sharing a dorm room like every other college student, so Mom decided it was my job to fix that. You've got to be kidding me, I said, already feeling the anger bubbling up. This is serious, she snapped. You know how hard this is for her? She needs this room. It's not a big deal for you, you're doing well now. You should want to help your family. Family? That word tasted like poison coming from her mouth. The same woman who stole from me, replaced me, and pretended I didn't exist was now trying to pull the we're family card. You mean the family that kicked me out and never looked back? My voice was calm, but I could feel my hands shaking. The family that didn't call when I was barely scraping by? That family. She didn't even hesitate. That was years ago. You need to stop holding on to the past. We need to focus on what's important, and right now, Lily needs your help. Are you really going to be this selfish? Selfish. That word hit a nerve. I thought about every hour I had worked, every sacrifice I had made, every moment I spent wondering why I wasn't good enough for her. And now she had the nerve to act like I was the one in the wrong? Like I owed them something? I'm not giving you a cent, I said, my voice sharp. So that's it, she spat. You're just going to turn your back on your own family? After everything I've done for you? That was the final straw. Everything she's done for me? She stole my future, erased me from her life, and only called when she needed money. If anything, I owed her nothing. Yeah, I said, my voice steady. That's exactly what I'm doing. Then I hung up. I knew she wouldn't let this go. A few days passed, and for a moment, I let myself believe it was over. Maybe she finally got the message. Maybe she realized I wasn't some bank account she could access whenever it was convenient for her. Maybe, for once, she would just leave me alone. I should have known better. I was walking up to my apartment building after work, exhausted and ready to collapse onto my couch when I saw her, standing right outside. At first, I thought I was seeing things. But no, it was her. Arms crossed, foot tapping, waiting. My stomach dropped. How did she even find out where I lived? Karen. It had to be. She was the only family member still in touch with me, and despite her attempts to stay neutral, she had always been a bit too willing to play peacemaker. I considered turning around, pretending I hadn't seen her. But she spotted me before I could make a move. We need to talk. I sighed, rubbing a hand down my face. Of course we do. If this is about money, I already told you. No, she interrupted, raising a hand. I talked to Mark, and we've come up with a solution. I almost laughed. Oh great. A solution. I already knew where this was going, but I humored her. Let me guess, I said. You need more money? She smiled like she had just thought of the most brilliant idea in the world. Not more, just different. We realized Lily really does need a private space, but a dorm is too expensive. So we're thinking, what if she got a small 2-bedroom apartment instead? That way she'd have her own room, her own bathroom, and... I held up a hand. Let me stop you right there. Who's paying for this apartment? Her smile didn't even falter. Well, we thought you could help with that. It's only $1,000 a month. I actually laughed. I couldn't help it. It was too ridiculous. You seriously think I'm going to pay $1,000 a month so Lily can have her own private apartment? She crossed her arms, clearly not amused. You never gave anything to this family. It's time you give back. That was it. That was the moment the last bit of patience drained out of me. Gave back? You mean the family that stole $24,000 from me? The family that left me to fend for myself? The family that didn't even invite me to Christmas? That family. Her expression darkened. You need to stop acting like a child. And you need to stop acting like I owe you something. She clenched her jaw. I raised you. I did everything for you, and this is how you treat me. I took a step forward, looking her dead in the eyes. You took everything from me, and you didn't even feel bad about it. And now, after years of ignoring me, you show up here demanding money like I'm some kind of lottery ticket? You're unbelievable. Her face twisted with anger, but I wasn't done. You know what? I said. Fine. You want to talk about money? When are you going to pay me back the $24,000 you stole? That did it. Her entire demeanor shifted. Her face went red, her lips pressed into a thin line. You are so ungrateful, she hissed. I sacrificed so much for you and you. No, I couldn't. You sacrificed me. You threw me away for your new family. And now you want me to help them? Not happening. For a second, I thought she might hit me. Instead, she just glared at me, breathing heavily, like she was trying to come up with the perfect comeback but couldn't. You'll regret this one day, she finally spat. I just shook my head. No, I won't. Then I walked past her, unlocked my door, and shut it behind me. I knew she wouldn't stop here. Not yet. A week of silence. No calls, no texts, no surprise visits. For the first time in a while, I let myself believe it was actually over. Maybe she had finally realized I wasn't going to cave. Maybe she had given up. Maybe, just maybe, I could move on. Then the letter arrived. It was stuffed in my mailbox, no return address, just my name on the front. At first, I thought it was junk mail or some leftover bill I'd forgotten about. But the second I opened it, my stomach dropped. It was from a lawyer. I scanned the pages, disbelief turning into full-blown anger as I processed what I was looking at. My own mother was trying to sue me. The claim? Familial financial responsibility. According to her, I had a moral and legal duty to support her and her family now that I was successful. The letter outlined how I was in a privileged position and how, as a family member, I was expected to contribute to Lily's college expenses. I almost laughed. She abandoned me, stole from me, cut me out of her life completely, and now she wanted a legal claim to my bank account? I wasn't even mad at this point, I was just stunned. How far was she willing to go? How deep did her entitlement run? I picked up the phone and called my grandfather. He answered on the second ring. What's wrong? He asked, immediately sensing my frustration. Mom is trying to sue me, I said flatly. There was a long pause. Then, oh, for God's sake. Within the hour, he had put me in touch with one of his old lawyer friends. The guy barely needed 5 minutes to read the letter before shaking his head. This is ridiculous. There's no legal basis for this. So she can't actually do anything? I asked. Not a chance. Courts don't enforce family guilt trips. He drafted a response, shutting it down immediately. I mailed it out and waited. Days passed. Then a full week. Then 2. And just like that, she dropped it. No further legal threats. No escalation. Just silence. But of course, she couldn't let it go without a final word. A single text popped up on my phone later that night. Her last attempt at control. You'll regret this one day. I stared at the message for a few seconds. Then I blocked her number. No, I wouldn't. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. The legal nonsense was over. My mother had lost. No more calls. No more guilt trips. No more demands. It felt like I had finally put an end to all of it. Then Mark called. I didn't recognize the number at first, but the second I heard his voice I knew. His tone was sharp, already furious before I even said a word. "So I heard you've been disrespecting your mother." I let out a slow breath, already done with this conversation before it even started. "I'm not disrespecting her, Mark. I just refuse to give her money." "Oh, so that's what you think this is about?" he scoffed. "You think this is just about money? This is about family, about responsibility. You abandoned your mother and your sister." I cut him off. "Lily is not my sister. And I didn't abandon anyone. You all pushed me out years ago, remember?" Silence. Just for a second. A pause where I stupidly hoped that maybe, just maybe, he'd finally understand. But of course he didn't. "You're selfish," he said, his voice laced with disgust. "After everything we did for you, this is how you repay us?" I actually laughed. "Everything they did for me? What exactly did you do for me, Mark?" I asked, voice calm, controlled. "You and Mom ignored me. She stole from me. You both treated me like a problem to be erased. And now you expect me to help you? You're not a kid anymore. It's time to grow up and do your part." And there it was. The same manipulation, the same entitlement. The belief that I somehow owed them something. That because I had managed to survive without them, I should now pay them back for the privilege of being discarded. "I don't owe you anything," I said, voice firm. "And I never will." Then I hung up. I barely had time to process the conversation before my phone buzzed again. A text this time. From Lily. It wasn't angry. No accusations, no screaming. Just pure entitlement wrapped up in a casual message. "It's just money. You can afford it. Why are you being so tough about this?" I stared at the words, feeling something shift inside me. This was it. This was who they were. They had never seen me as a person. Just a resource. A wallet with a pulse. I didn't respond. There was nothing to say. I blocked her. I blocked them all. And for the first time I felt truly free. Weeks passed. Then a month. For the first time in years, there were no unexpected calls, no guilt trips, no demands for money. No reminders that I was supposed to be the villain in a story they had written for me. Just silence. And it was beautiful. I woke up each morning knowing my life was mine. I went to work, spent time with my friends, made plans for the future without the weight of them hanging over me. No more wondering when the next emotional ambush would hit. No more rehearsing arguments in my head, bracing myself for another round of manipulation. For the first time, I wasn't surviving. I was living. But the thing about cutting off family is that it doesn't just erase the past. Some nights, when everything was quiet, I caught myself thinking about her. Not the person she became, but the mother I used to have. Or maybe the mother I thought I had. A small part of me wished things had been different. That she had chosen me instead of them. That she had loved me enough to fight for me the way she fought for them. But she didn't. And that's okay. People like to say blood is thicker than water, as if genetics alone should be enough to keep people in your life. But that's a lie. Family isn't just blood. Family is love, respect, support. I had family. My grandparents, the people who took me in when she threw me out. My friends, the ones who stood by me when I had nothing. These were the people who mattered. And as for the ones who didn't, they were part of my past. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even sad. I just let go. I stepped outside into the crisp morning air, feeling lighter than I had in years. The world was wide open in front of me, and for the first time, I wasn't looking back. My life belongs to me now.